Hello, welcome to another Martian Minute. I'm sitting outside of my school waiting on night class to start. But one thing I've been studying and I really want to talk about today is long before God established the church as we know it in the Bible. He established the first institution. He establishes the family, the home. He established marriage with Adam and Eve, and all that entails in the Garden of Eden. And I think we need to really, how often do we focus on the church and we say things, about the church this and the church that, when God established the home first. And one of the things I like to do when I'm in the Bible, this is one of my favorite places to be on this subject, is in Genesis. And you can see very clearly that this family, starting with Abraham, and we're going to go all the way to Joseph, had some real issues with their family. Now let's just get started. I'm in Genesis 37 verse 17. So Joseph set out after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him in the distance, and before he had reached them, they plotted to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes the dreamer. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of the pits. We can say that a vicious animal ate him, then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." So Joseph has 11 brothers. Joseph is the second youngest. And his brothers plot to kill him. Okay, that's not a picture of a happy family, okay? Not by any means. But you have to ask yourself, where does this come from? Who's responsible for this? And if you just back up to verse 3, you'll see it's talking about Israel. That's Jacob. His name has changed to Israel. Now Israel loved Joseph more than his other sons, because Joseph was a son born to him in his old age, and he made a robe of many colors for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not bring themselves to speak peaceably to him. So here you go. Here's your answer. The father, who has all these children, has a favorite, okay? Not only does he have a favorite, everyone knows he has a favorite. All the other sons know that he favors this one child more than the others. And that should be a strong warning to, to us as husbands and fathers, or just mothers or wives too. It's not just a male issue here in this story. That this is serious. God, like I said, he instituted the family first. And the decisions we make and how we love our wives, how we love our children, have a serious consequences and effects that can pass through generations. Now, why did Jacob or Israel make this mistake? And if you back up a little bit, you'll see he made this mistake in his own marriage life early on. Now, I'll just say right here that Jacob has 2 wives. At no point in the Bible is this a thing that God has established for marriage. It just is what it is. People make mistakes. People, and God can still bless you in your mistakes. Especially if you don't realize, you have no idea of the mistakes you're making, okay? But if you really study this story, and that's not what we're going to get into today with this video, you'll see that, yeah, God does bless them in their mistakes, even whenever they're having these relations they're not supposed to have. But he doesn't just do it with there's a spirit of brokenness. You see it especially with Hagar and Sarah, Abraham's wife. That's going back a couple generations, but them two were quite broken over the mistakes that they had made, And in their brokenness, that's when God responded. With Hagar, when she's in the wilderness, She's been exiled. Her and her son Ishmael is starving to death practically. That's when God shows up with Sarah, when Hagar was ridiculing her and going out of her way to make a mockery of her. That's when God shows up, you see. So even mistake-making people who are children of God, you know, he'll still bless us. But anyway, I got off point there. But in chapter 29 it says Jacob loved Rachel more than he loved Leah. Now these are the mothers who eventually, their children are the ones we talk about wanting to kill Joseph. Guess what? Joseph is the son of that woman that his father loved more than he loved the other woman. And in between these two verses in 15, you'll see that yeah, he had children with both women, and it's even more women than that. But in verse 15 you'll see that, yeah, even though he had children with him, he still stayed with Rachel almost all the time. I mean, I'm just trying to give you an idea of the how bad the issue is in his family. But you know, why was it like this for Jacob? Well, you go back, you know, to his father and his brother Esau, and that would be in chapter 25, verse 27. Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for wild game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So Jacob had one brother, Esau, and his parents, guess what? They had favorites, and which is bad enough, but they wasn't even in agreement of who the favorite child was. Isaac loved the older child, Rebekah loved the younger child. Now we know that this ain't good. This is the problem. This is very close to the problem Jacob has later in his years. Well, where do you think he learned it from? He learned it from his own parents. Okay? And we should know the story. Jacob deceives his brother and steals his birthright, practically. That's what he does. And then later on, when Isaac is an old man, and he can't see anymore, his wife and the son Jacob come up with a plan. You see, in this patriarchal family system that God had established, when the patriarch is about to die, he would bless a child or many children, and in this case, you know, he's going to bless Esau. Well, his wife and the younger son Jacob come up with a plan to deceive him. He thinks that he can't see, so they lie to him and say, no, this is Esau, not Jacob. And so he believes them, and he blesses Jacob, thinking he's blessing Esau. Now, and you know, a lot of people talk about this part of scripture, but what really comes out to me as I'm studying it, you know, preparing for this video, is that when Esau shows up and he asks for the blessing, and you know, long story short, they come to the realization that Isaac stole it by deception, and he gets real upset, and he asks his father, you know, he asks his father, give me a lesser blessing, and his father tells him he can't do it because he gave the whole blessing to Isaac. So that's kind of just a freebie there, but the father had no intention of blessing Jacob at all, okay? Not to say Jacob didn't deceive his father, which he shouldn't have done. You see, this is 2 generations here of bad parenting, affecting not loving their children correctly, probably not loving, I know for sure, Jacob not loving their spouse correctly at all. Okay, and it goes on to your kids. They see this, they grow up in this. What do you think they're going to be when they become adults? Yeah, I know God's an overcomer. He can help your kids if they're truly his children and they truly seek to be hearers and doers of the word. He can help them overcome and break any generational curse. But that doesn't mean we should use that as a license to put a curse on them. You know, this story gets even, you can go back to Abraham, like I was saying earlier, and Sarah and Hagar and Ishmael and their young son Isaac. Guess what? Where did he learn all this from that he passed on to Jacob? This family has serious issues in the way that they love each other. Okay? And you know, like I said in the beginning, before God established the church, he established the home. And I'm really speaking, hoping men are watching this, and I just want to tell you, your job as a husband is to love your wife. Okay? Your job as a father is to raise your children to be an admonition of the Lord. And that's your responsibility, period. And it continues to be your responsibility until you die. There's no way out of this. You can go to court, you can get whatever thing in writing you want. When you face God face to face, you're held to a higher standard than whatever the courts that we've created here on earth could even dream of holding. And that's my message for today. Take this seriously, because the mistakes you make as a parent, especially the love mistakes, have consequences you can't even see that can stretch for generations. Okay? Don't put that on your children or your children's children. So God bless you. Thank you for watching. Can't wait to have another Martian Minute. And it is time for school.